Hi all, welcome you all back to the discussion on management and entrepreneurship module 1, and today we are going to discuss about the management as a science, art or a profession. A big debate which has been carried on since decades. Management to be considered as a science or the art or the profession, and it is still going on. It has the characteristics of science and art, and it is increasingly becoming a profession. With respect to this profession, there are professional degrees that are available like MBAs and from the big business schools, and in this knowledge driven world it has become a degree as well. So let's consider one by one to debate whether it is a science or art or profession. Let's consider that debate as a management as art. How we can say that management is art? We have dealt with the people there, and people have got different characteristics. It has got the organizational behavior, and it knows how to motivate the people, what people needs, and how to put the people and people in place, and what makes the people to get demotivated, and what are the aspirations of the people, how the people can be managed, and it is more qualitative, so it can be considered as art. If we think about the science, management as science, what is science? Science is nothing but it gives the result. It is based on the experiments. It is based on the observations, and it always goes with the history as well to draw any kind of conclusions. So management is more quantitative in this perspective. So it knows how to be accountable. For example, if we say count the number of people working in the office, the turnover rate, the profit and the loss, and the accounting. So all these experiments that are based on this particular input and the output will give us the result. So management can also be considered as science. So management as an art, again, if we think about it, what are the features of the management? The features of the management always conforms whether the characteristics are similar to the art or not. So if we observe the properties of the art and compare it with the properties of the management, then we may observe the following, the similarities like this. Both of them involves the systematic application of the theoretical knowledge and the personal skills to achieve the desired results. The functions of the art is to effect the change and to bring about the desired results through the deliberative efforts. Art is a personalized process, and every artist has their own mindset and their own styles. Art is an essentially creative and creative in its own nature, and the result is measured by the achievement. And art describes how to do the things and ways to improvement through the continuous practices. And art is also considered to bring in the result using the desired skills. So art involves a practical application of the theoretical knowledge. According to Professor John F. May, management is the art of securing maximum results with a minimum of effort, so as to secure the maximum prosperity and happiness for both employer and employee, and to give the public the best possible service. So it is the art of securing the desired response from people management to make the things to happen. So as an art, management requires the judgment and the skills, and the art of management can be refined with the continuous practice of theories and the principles. The art of management is as old as human civilization. Sorry about it. So let's consider the properties of the art and the management. Let's compare both of them. So here, properties of the art, when we say art uses the use of knowledge in both the ways, the management also uses the knowledge, and art is also considered to be the application of knowledge. Art can be creative, management is also creative. It varies from person to person. There is a personal touch in the art. Every painter is different, every artist is different. It is a personalized activity based on their talent. Every manager is different, and they produce the different skills, and they produce the different teams, and they apply the managerial theories in the different ways to achieve the success, and they achieve the same result in their own ways. And if we consider the art is a constant practice. Without the practice it cannot come. So the artist's perfection will come only with the practice. Similarly, managerial experience gives the managers a different touch. So So as we see, management has got the characteristics of the art, and we considered the constant practices, we compared the personal touch of the artist, and we also compared the creativeness of the art, and then the similarity with respect to the management and use of the knowledge by both artists as well as the managerial persons. So let's see the debate as a management as science. As I already said, the science revolves around the organized way of experiments and the observations. Science can be expressed as the organized as a systemized body of knowledge. It is pertaining to the field of inquiry. Science is the systematized in the sense that it establishes the cause and effects of relationship between different variables. Similarly, such a systemized body of knowledge contains concepts, principles and theories which helps to explain the past events and to predict the future events. And these principles are capable of universal applications, that is, they can be applied under different situations. So they represent the fundamental truths derived from the experimental or results. So the principles of the basic method are derived from the scientific methods like the continuous observation, experiment and testing. So when the generalization and the hypothesis are empirically vertical, for accuracy through the continuous observation and the experimentation, they become the principle of science explains why behavior of the human resources. So if we see that why, if we go through the normal 5 whys, we will be able to find out what is the fact behind any kind of human expressions or human acts. So the management can be considered as a science. Let's see that how exactly this can be compared with the science. The management contains all characteristics of the science, as I said. And firstly, if we see the systematic body of the knowledge, management also consists of the systematic body of the knowledge because principles are now available for every function of the management. And these principles help to improve the managerial effectiveness with respect to the changing situations. So the budgeting, cost accounting, ratio analysis, rate of return on investments, ROIs, critical path methods like CPM, PERT, and all these new methods have been developed and then evolved, including the Gantt charts of the project management, are all on the same techniques which are going to facilitate the better management. Secondly, the principles of management that have developed through the continuous observations are empirical verification. Thirdly, management principles are capable of universal applications. It can be applied to any kind of businesses. It could be offices, it could be healthcare sector, it could be an industry. So what are the properties of science? When we see that, when we compare the properties of science with the properties of management, properties of science are again systematic body of knowledge. Properties of management is also systematic body of knowledge. Science inquiry and observation is the property of science. Again here management is a social science. Experimentation is the basic of science, and management is not exactly the science in this particular perspective. Universal truth is the outcome of science experiments, and it can be applied anywhere. And manager and the scientist, manager experiments and uses the results, and whereas scientists takes the decisions based on the results that are obtained by the experimentation. Let's understand the scientific management, that is a combination of science and the management. F.W. Taylor, who is the pioneer, like Henry Fayol or Harry Packer Follett, all these pioneers, they have developed the different principles of management based on the structural and then the scientific management theories. From this above discussion, we can refer that management is quite scientific and it can be considered as a science as well. So when we observe the management as art, it has the features of the art also. When we see and compare the science, we can see that management is also considered as science. So when we see that, make a comparison of management as a science and the management as a art, the basic difference is what we see here is that management as a science, it defines; as an art, it describes. Management as science proves the relationships, or it proves what exactly could be the result, and why the result is coming because of the various relationships among the variables. But management as an art says that it feels. Management as a science predicts, whereas So management as a art, it has an objective, as a science as an objective, whereas in the art it is very subjective. Management as a science, it measures the results and measures the inputs, and whereas the art opines the results. If it management as a science impress, whereas the management as a art express. And management as a science advances by knowledge, it responds to the external situations, but management as a art says practice, 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 so that it advances by practices. So F.W. Taylor is considered to be the father of scientific management, and he says that management is quite scientific in its nature. So let's consider the third most opinion, that the management as a profession. When we consider the management as a profession, earlier there were no degrees for the management, but the management was in place. Management practices the management theories and experiments. Management has become a specialized stream now, a body of principles, techniques, and then the skills, which are valid for the variety of organization. Management as a profession, managed by professionally qualified people and qualified professionals. So what are the characteristics of profession? Characteristics of the profession are well-defined body of the knowledge and the formal education and the training. When we think about the well-defined body of knowledge, management is practiced and developed by the pioneers, and then the techniques, and then the principles, and then the skills. There are so many ways to build the knowledge, and that could follow a history as well. Many management tools are available, and that the techniques are experimented in practice, and then it could be perfected. It is perfected over the years. So now many firms are there who are in the research process of the management, and they practice the management, and they do give the managerial theories with respect to the particular operations, who will be able to practice it further and then bring the results. So next, if we consider the formal education and training, as I already said, profession, the management as a profession evolved with the different kind of professional degrees like MBA, MS, and then we all know that the graduate engineers can take the entrance examination of the various business schools. Suppose, for example, if you want to go for IIM, you need to be qualified. You need to take the exam like CAT, GMAT, and with a good CAT score, you can land up with a good IIMs, that is the business schools. Similarly, there are various business schools like Symbiosis and others who are going to have their own entrance examination, in which the students will be evaluated based on their the way that they have written the examinations, and they will be given the scores and then the admission in various functional areas of management. So the business schools provide management education on various areas of management like finance, HR, human resources, that is production, operation, etc. And the individuals, inclusive of this, the various product management schools have come, and then the program management schools have come, and various other type of managements have also been evolved over the time. So an individual can enter into the profession only after the proper educational practices, and then the minimum qualification is required to be a manager, to be a management professional. So we cannot bypass, or we cannot take only the experience without the formal education to become a management professional. So the business houses prefers the properly educated, qualified professionals to become the managers, so that everything would be expected to be in place with along with the growth. So the representation body will be a regulatory body, consists of the stream of professionals, and it controls the activities along with the monitoring. It ensures the standard practice. For example, All India Medical Council, you might have heard about it. In the COVID-19 time, we have kept on hearing about this. And for doctors, the All India Medical Council is the one which is the regulatory body, and it is the representation body to observe the code of the conduct of all the various doctors all around India. Grievances that they have. All India Council for Technical Education like AICTE, where the engineers are going to be there, and then they are going to be the governing body, one governing body for the faculties as well as the engineers. Managers do not really have a universal code of conduct. No regulatory body will be there to ensure the standard practices. No license is required to become the managers. But if they become the professionals, then definitely everything would be expected to grow in a different way with the professional. That's why that is the reason why the corporate prefers the professional managers who are going to work. So the So what is the service motto of a manager? A professional have to have an inclination to serve the industry or the nation, and their intention should be safeguarded. Their intention should safeguard the society from any risk. So what are the characteristics of the management as a profession? We discussed about the characteristics of the management as art. We discussed about management as a science. Now let's understand what are the characteristics of the management as a profession. Management has a well defined body of knowledge and practice, and for the betterment of the management to be the better managers, managers are formally educated, and then they are going to be the trained professional individuals. Managers have no regulatory body, and managers do not really have a universal code of conduct, and in absence of any kind of regulatory body, managers indulge in practices aimed at pooling the personal wealth, so it has to be avoided. Modern management approaches teaches the professionals to manage their personal growth or the personal gains and the company gains as well. Herewith, we may conclude that management conforms to the most of the characteristics of the profession, and hence it can also be called as profession. So with this, we have understood the characteristics of the management as science, as art, and as the profession. So with this, the debate still continues, and then we will not be able to conclude this management as one particular body, and we cannot say that management is only science or only art or only profession. It is a combination of all. It can be categorized into everything.